Diomedes, welcome to this video lesson on chapter 31 of Fabulae Faciles, the eighth labor of Heracles, man-eating horses of Diomedes. Postquam ex insula Creta rediit, after he returned from the island of Crete, so that's the labor of the Cretan bull, Hercules ab Eurysteo in Thraciam missus est. Hercules was sent, missus est, by Eurystheus. That's the ablative of agent, or ablative of personal agent, ob plus the ablative case, Eurysteo here, was sent by Eurystheus into Thrace. Ut equos Diomedes reducerit, in order that he might bring back the horses of Diomedes. Now, a quick note here, the horses here, equos there, are masculine, so that would be stallions. In most versions of this myth, these are mares, which in Latin would be equas here. But in this story, they seem to be masculine horses, so stallions. He equi, these horses, carne hominum vescebantur, ate the flesh or the meat of human beings. Now, carne here is ablative case. In Latin, there are the 5 puff V verbs, potior, utor, fruor, fungor, and vescor, which we have here. These verbs are all deponent, so they look passive but translate active. Notice vescebantur has the inter passive ending instead of the normal nt active ending. And they all take an ablative object for the verb. So instead of carnem, accusative, we have carne here. All right, going on. Diomedes autem, Diomedes, however, or moreover, vir crudelissimus, a most cruel man, illis obiciebat peregrinos omnes, tossed to them all the foreigners, peregrinos omnes. A peregrinus is somebody who travels from one land to another land, so all the foreigners or all of the travelers. It's where we get the word pilgrim from, and also peregrine falcon comes from that in English. So he tossed them all the foreigners, qui in eam regionem venerant, who had come into that region. Now, venerant is a pluperfect, you can see from the ERA, so that's why we say had come. Hercules igitur, therefore Hercules, magna claritate, with great speed. Magna claritate, by the way, that's an ablative of manner. You can do those with or without cum, so magna cum claritate, same thing with great speed. In Thracium contendit, hurried into Thrace. So therefore Hercules with great speed hurried into Thrace. Now, if you're not familiar with contendit for hurried or hastened, you might know properavit or festinavit, some of the synonyms of that. Et ab Diomede postulavit, and he demanded from Diomedes, ut equi sibi traderentur, that the horses should be handed over to him. This is an indirect command clause. Cum tamen ille hoc facere nollet, when nevertheless he, ille referring to Diomedes, did not want to do this. And notice the nollet there is an imperfect subjunctive of nolo, nole, to not want. Hercules, ira comotus, Hercules, moved by anger, regim interfecit, killed the king, et cadaver eius equis obiciusit, and he ordered his corpse, cadaver eius, to be thrown, obici, to the horses. So cadaver is a neuter word that means corpse or dead body. Of course, it's where you get the cadaver from in English. Okay. Ita, so, or in this way, mira rerum commutatio facta est. A wonderful changing of things occurred. Isenem qui antia multos cum cruciato necaverat, for he who had earlier killed very many people, or just many people, multos, with torture, cum cruciato, course, this is referring to him feeding them alive to the horses. Ipse himself, eodem supplicio necatus est, was killed by the same punishment or the same method of execution, eodem supplicio. Now, supplicium can be a supplication or it can be a punishment, and specifically often an execution, like here. Cum haec nuntiata essent, when these things had been reported, omnes qui eam regionem incolevant, all the people who inhabited that region, maxima laetitia affecti sunt, were affected with the greatest joy, et Herculi meritam gratiam referebant, and they returned or rendered deserved thanks or earned thanks, meritam gratiam, to Hercules. Non modo, not only maximis honoribus et praemiis eum decoraverunt, did they decorate him with the greatest honors and rewards, sed orabant etiam, but they also begged, ut regnum ipse susciperet, that he himself should take up the kingship. That's another indirect command clause, ut through susciperet. As usual, those always begin with an ut or a ne and have the subjunctive verbs. Ille tamen, he nevertheless, hoc facere nolebat, did not want to do this. Et cum ad mare rediisset, and when he had come back to the sea, navem occupavit, he seized a ship, that is, he quickly took a ship. Ubi omnia ad navigandum parata sunt, when all things had, or rather were prepared, parata sunt is a two-word perfect passive, when all things were prepared, ad navigandum, for sailing, that is a gerund phrase of purpose. Anytime you get odd or perhaps in plus an accusative gerund or gerundive like this, it often will show purpose, prepared for sailing. Equos in navi colocavit, he placed the horses on the ship. Dende, then, cum idoniam tempestatem noctus esset, when he had obtained, noctus esset, it's a two-word pluperfect passive subjunctive. Now, of course, the verb non-quiscor that this is from is a deponent verb, so thus, even though this is a passive form, I translated it active, had obtained suitable weather, idoniam tempestatem, sine mora, without delay, a porto solvit, he, meaning Hercules, set sail from the harbor. Et palopost, and a little bit later, ecos in litus argolicum exposuit, he set out, or perhaps disembarked, as this verb can often technically be used for that, disembarked the horses on the Argive shore. Well, that concludes that video lesson, and I hope you learned a few things, perhaps about the myth, the labor, or maybe some vocabulary or some grammar, or at least kind of refresh some past knowledge. Valete omnes.